Hello my shareholders and welcome back to All Booked Up's quarterly report for the third quarter of 2021, where you will be learning what my average ratings were and going through some of my 5-star reads. Hey guys, it's Adrian here. I thought I'd have to get dressed up for our quarterly report, going very business formal here. To give you a few stats, in July, August and September I have managed to read a total of 25 books and they have got an average rating of 4.35 stars. That's a very high average rating. Looking through here, I had a large group of 4-star reads with much fewer 5-star reads, but very few less than 4-star as well. So 4.5 stars, very well represented in these 3 months. What I do want to do here is go for a quick rundown of my 5-star reads, so the things I read in these months that were the best, were absolutely brilliant and that I enjoyed massively. So to start off, number 1 is not a book, it is actually a group of books, and this is from a reread. This is books from the Dresden Files. So there are 3 books I gave 5 stars for the Dresden Files in this quarter, them being Grave Peril, Death Masks and Blood Rights. For those of you who don't know, this is like my umpteenth reread of the Dresden Files. I've read it many times before, and I know this is controversial for those of you who love Summer Night. For me, it has never been a favourite, and it still isn't. It was a good 4.5-star read for me, but didn't quite sneak into the 5-star category. Grave Peril is where we first really kick off this series. It's book 3 of the Dresden Files, and because of the way that it really starts ongoing plot threads and the way that we have side characters introduced that we are just wonderful side characters, it was just a 5-star read for me, and it really feels like you're getting back into the meat of the series at this point. Death Masks, book number 5, has always been a sleeper pick for me. I love Death Masks. I think it is absolutely brilliant. And then the most controversial here is probably the fact that I gave Blood Rights 5 stars. So Blood Rights is book 6, and it is probably the most maligned Dresden Files book other than the first 2. So Stormfront and Full Moon are often regarded as the weakest, and then people hate on Blood Rights and they reckon everything else is brilliant, basically. For me, I had forgotten how good Blood Rights was and is, and partially that is because when I did my Dresden Files ranking video, when I first started this reread, I had kind of forgotten what happened where, and I'd associated quite a few of the plot points from Blood Rights book 6 with book 5 Death Masks. I thought they actually occurred in book 5, which is not the case. So there was much more plot here that I really enjoyed in Blood Rights than I was expecting, because I thought it happened earlier. I do accept, however, that the A plot is pretty boring. Now, the A plot in Blood Rights is very meh. It's very middle of the road. It's just a case that Harry has been brought onto. It's kind of played for lasts a little bit, but not really, and that is definitely the weakness of Blood Rights. But I really enjoy the secondary plot, and I love all the information we get, all the world building we get, all the reveals we get about Harry and his past, and I just absolutely adore this book as a whole. I think it's done very well, even if the A plot is a little bit boring. So there, my reread, 5 stars for this quarter. Moving on to the first of the new books that I gave 5 stars in this quarter. The first of those that I read and gave 5 stars is actually, again, multiple books, and these are the Takes Kalan duology by Arkady Martine. So A Memory Called Empire and A Desolation Called Peace. I absolutely adore these books. These are my favourite sci-fi series right now. There is no sci-fi series that I have read that I love more than this series. I think they're done incredibly well. I love the mystery plot we get in A Memory Called Empire. We also get another mystery plot in Desolation Called Peace, which is also good. But I love the mystery plot. I love that we're thrown in the deep end. I love that we're with a character who is competent but very inexperienced, and I think that's a very interesting setup, along with the friends she makes. So we are following Nghi, who is sent from a small mining colony to be an ambassador to the big empire, and she is thrown in the deep end after the previous ambassador has been killed. And there are great themes that work through this series. There are themes of memory and identity. We've got the massive politics and inter-empire relations that I think are done very well. I think it's just an incredible duology. If you like sci-fi, if you like things that are based on linguistics and mystery, this is really going to be a series for you. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and it is both books 5 stars for me, my favourite sci-fi series of all time currently. And guys, if you do me a favour right now, do tap that like button if you're enjoying this video so more people can see my dapper good looks. Next up in my 5-star category is actually a novella that you might have heard me talk about before. This is The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Nghi. I've said on this channel many times that novellas are not always my thing. I don't often rate them very highly. This is only the second novella I have read that I've ever given 5 stars, and I absolutely adored it. I love the way that Nghi writes, I love the prose, I love the concept. This is the first book of the Singing Hill cycle. We are following our main character, who is from a religious order, a monastery, whose aim is to collect pieces of the past, to collect stories from history, and we meet her as she meets another character who was on the outskirts of a big political event in the history of this nation, and we hear the story through her words and through the objects within the house where she is living. Is done very, very interestingly. I love the story, I love the concept, and I love the prose and the execution. Just absolutely brilliant. Book 2, When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain, it was also a good read for me. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. It was great, just not quite reaching the standards of this first one. And then moving on to my final 5-star read of this quarter, and that is The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. This is the first book of the Lycaeus trilogy. The way this book and series is blurbed implies that it should be a smash hit for me. It says that if you like The Wheel of Time and Brandon Sanderson, there will be much to admire in this series, and I think that is a fair summary, particularly the Brandon Sanderson side of it. I really enjoyed James Islington's world building. I love the fact that there was always another secret. There were reveals upon reveals, and they didn't feel cheap, they felt earned, which is always a big thing in my fantasy books. If your reveal feels cheap, I'm not going to love it. If it feels earned, yeah, I'm on board. If there was a weakness here, the characters can be a little bit flat, particularly our sort of main character can be a little bit flat and unexciting. So if you are entirely a character reader, this book might not be for you. If you are more of a plot reader though, if you want a fantastic world and you want a brilliant plot and things being revealed, then this is going to be a great series for you. I'm currently most of the way through book 2 and really enjoying that one as well. So the Lycaeus trilogy, if that's the kind of style of book you like, if you like Sanderson, if you like the Mistborn series, this series could be for you. And there are all my 5-star reads for this quarter. I'm also going to throw in my lowest star rating read for this quarter, and that was To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. And I say that with much trepidation, with much sadness, because I really loved this book for the first third. I had really high hopes 2/3 of the way in, and it just sort of petered out. You can go and check out my dedicated review in the description below if you would like, but the main thrust of that review is that it had great potential, it had a really good setup, and it just failed to execute in multiple ways, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it goes sometimes. I know there are some people who love this book. It promised so much and delivered a lot less of that, unfortunately. So that was my biggest disappointment for this quarter, to go along with all my 5-star reads that I was talking about before. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys again soon.